Good evening and welcome to my podcast. I'm Bob Pace, your host, and we're going to talk about CPS stealing our children. Stop taking our children. Now, it's very important that we cover uh, all the aspects. We'll try to cover as much as we can of your involvement with CPS. We had a guest speaker tonight. They were there. Rachel was her name, but I don't know what happened to her. Let me check here and see what happened to the host. Okay. Start. Okay. First of all, I want to make sure everybody's hearing me okay. That's really, really important there. There's several ways that you can interact with this podcast. One is you can text me a message about your case, a question, or if you have something else, something related to Child Protection Service, please text me. Make sure you include your name, city, and state. If you're from a country, that's okay. Again, I need the city and the country. And we've had people from Australia, Canada, and United Kingdom, and Ghana. So I welcome everybody worldwide to this podcast. CPS, Children Protection Services, is a worldwide problem. Everybody I've talked to, over 100 some people, have sort of agreed with me. I think I've only heard one or two cases that anything went right. Most of the time, the children are taken, and a lot of the allegations are false. And that's one of the hardest things to do, is deal with allegations that are false. Now, another way you can interact with this show is that you could call in right now at 626-698-0990. And you want to call in and talk on the show. I will put the speakerphone on and have you live. And so I'd love to hear from you on that. If you can't talk right now, that's okay. If you want to be on one of my other shows, I'm on 7 days a week, twice a day, 10 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock at night for an hour. It's all Pacific Standard Time. On Sunday, I come on a half an hour later because of another show commitment. But if you want to be on my show, please call in 888-6582. That's my other office number. I have two office numbers, one to my phone, which is with me, and the other one to my office, where they will schedule what show you like. If you want the Friday morning, Friday night, Wednesday morning, Wednesday night, you pick the show that you want to be on, and I'm glad to have you. We had Rachel here, but something about a call was coming up for her at 7:05 with her son. I thought she had about an hour, maybe a half an hour to spare, but she had to leave us, which hopefully she'll come back another time. The other thing you need to think about, besides calling in or being on the show, is the rule number one. It's when you're involved in CPS, right away you should get an attorney. You need to talk to this attorney as soon as possible, because they're the only ones that know how to navigate CPS and the awful things that they do. It's very complex. It can be very, very scary at first. I feel for all you that are going through CPS. I went through it myself. I've had 14 years of CPS. 5 of them in the beginning were just alleged calls that never were proved to be real. And then 3 years when they tricked me and took my children, and I had to fight 3 years, and I didn't have an attorney right away, and I suffered because of it, because it took me longer. And that's why I really emphasize you need to get an attorney. You need someone that knows family law, someone that's worked with juveniles. Dependency court is for juveniles, kids under the age of 18. That's who CPS is supposed to protect. They're supposed to protect the children from neglect and abuse. And how they do it is they receive a alleged incident involving a child under the age of 18, and that person that calls in could be either a professional or a lay person. A professional is like a doctor, a fireman, a policeman, a nurse, a school teacher, a counselor. somewhere along the line, these professional people have observed a child injured or something wrong with them or something like that. They're obligated by law to report it right away to CPS. CPS then has to, in 24 hours, investigate it, and they're going to investigate, and they're going to try to come to your home. They're going to try to call you. They're going to try to trick you. They're going to try to make you sign safety plans and all kinds of stuff because their interest, and I'm going to tell you right now, it's not really to protect children or bring families back together, is to make $1 off your child. It's the only legal government entity I know that can trick and use deception and take your children away from you. And yes, there are parents that done bad things to kids. And yes, some of the bad things are horrific. I know the horror stories of kids taken by CPS and parents that have neglected or abused their children. But they're far and few. And on top of that, they treat every case like it's like the other cases that are real. So, for instance, if you're accused of say, physical abuse to your child because the bruises on there, they're going to treat you just like every other case, and they're going to make you go through hoops and hurdles and everything when the bruises were nothing more than playing a game of soccer, and they got the bruises that way. They're supposed to be doing, bring the family back together. They don't do that. They don't do it. And the ones I was involved in Southern California were terrible. They were strictly in there for the money, and I met the head honcho. So, as I say, rule number one is you need to have an attorney. It's like doing open heart surgery without a doctor. You don't want to do that. And the attorney you get later on in your case, the dependency court that you're called to go before, is going to be a public defender with little experience, caseload of 20 more cases, and they're not going to be fighting for you. They're going to do the easiest way out because they have to move on to the next case, the next case. They're friends with the social workers. They're friends with the lawyers for the social workers. They're friends with the judge. And I had everything go wrong. I had a terrible time with CPS, and that's why I want to share it with you. So get this attorney, and you have good luck. The law firm that's putting this on is Vincent W. Davis Associates. They put on this podcast that is shown on YouTube, and it's found out through Facebook. Facebook is where you find the CPS, and there's a lot of them out there. There's a lot to watch. There's lines that are repeated that you can watch and so forth. And there's little tidbits that will help you. And I know what you all are going through. And the thing is not to give up. So the reason why I mentioned this law firm, Vincent W. Associates, they have many legal lawyers that help you with all kinds of legal matters. But the one help you need is dependency or family law. You need a lawyer that is experienced. And we have one. It's Vincent W. Davis. He has fought CPS for years. He's won cases against CPS. He has brought home children. He's also filed a lawsuit several times against CPS and won for what they did, for taking away your constitutional rights and so forth. He's also a trial attorney. And he works in Southern California, Northern California, and all the 50 states he'll go to. His retention fee is based on a sliding scale. How complex is the case? How long has the case been going on? Where it's located? That will all decide to determine factors. But right now, he's offering something even too good to be true. He's offering a free consultation to talk to him, and he'll go over the strategies of how to fight CPS and how to get your children back. It's absolutely free. All you got to do is a couple of things. You need to call into my other office number, 888-888-6582. And when you speak to them, you say you want a free consultation with Mr. Davis. And you tell them that Bob Pay sent you. It's really important you mention my name because that way they won't charge, and they should set up the appointment. Now, at the bottom of my screen is a ticket that's showing a website for Mr. Davis. It's his calendar website. It shows all the engagements he's in and open spots. You should look at that first before you call in and pick out a spot that you like, or pick out a couple of them in case the ones you call in are already taken. But when you talk to them, insist on talking. You want to schedule an appointment. You tell them that Bob Pace says so. And when you meet Mr. Davis, I want you also to tell him that Bob Pace sent me. All right. So that's really important that you do that. And so, um, get an attorney. It will save years off your back. It'll set you free with stress. I know you can't maybe afford them. All right. There's ways. I had to mortgage my house. I had to use up all my retirement, my parents' inheritance fees to get Vincent Davis, and he got my two of my three kids back. And it was a terrible fight because I tried to fight him in the beginning, and I find out that you should never let a social worker in your home. You never let a policeman in your home. You never let them take your children, and you never talk to them. You should use yes, no answers and tell them you have an attorney that will talk to you, or call the attorney's name. You may not have hired the attorney, but you can say you have an attorney. That sometimes scares them off, and they may not have the evidence they need. They're going to trick you, try to give you a sign of safety plan because they don't have enough evidence. And when you sign a safety plan, you are now uh, going to lose your children, and it's a no-no. Um, Remember, these allegations that call in are made by lay people and professionals, and they have to be investigated by law within 24 hours. But they're going to be investigated by the social workers, and they're going to look for things like some of the reports come in because one spouse is after the other spouse, and they say things that aren't true. They're using CPS to fight their custody of their kids. That's really a no-no. You should never fight over your kids. Your kids were a blessing that you had the kids, and they really need a lot of we really need a lot of help on that. Excuse me 1 second. I thought I had my phone with me. I need to grab my phone. Hold on a second. I'll be right there. I found my phone, so I'm back now. Um, so if you want to call in, you can do so. Um, okay. All right. So my phone is live, and so you can call in. That's 626-698-0990. And so you can uh, call in for that. Okay. Now I got my phone going, so let me plug in. It's plenty of charge. Okay. So, let me see. I don't think anybody's made any calls, but okay. Oh, okay. There was a call today from 626, but I have no idea what that person is there. Okay. Um, now, uh, oh, shoot. Why is my phone trying to do something? It's just okay. So we were talking about sort of summary things up here. We're talking about not talking to CPS or the police, and they're in the part of investigating the case. That is the early part of your involvement with CPS. Now, I had 5 years of investigation on me. The allegations were coming in once a week, and they weren't from professionals, they're from lay people, but actually they're from my wife's side of the family. They've been very jealous. Me and my wife have been together for 32 years. And in the beginning, they really didn't support us getting married, and they didn't show up at the wedding. And it was really sad because we started to have children. We invited them out. They've made one visit in those 30 years to our home. It was a nice visit, but they had different plans, different things. Their family was always trying to find things that were wrong and so forth. And so when I lost my job, and it was a perfect storm for losing a job in 2010, because I had a lot of things going on. In 2007, the banks tanked because of predatory loans. I had a predatory loan, and so I know what that was. Also, my retirement was invested by my work, and I lost 50% of what I worked on for 40 years. So I was hit twice there. Then, on top of that, I lost my job through no fault of my own. And I was 60 years old at the time, and so it's hard to find work again. And if that wasn't bad enough, CPS started following up on the allegations made by family members that were false. And I was dealing with that. They were saying things like, we didn't have any utilities on. Well, I have all the bills to dispute that. The kids weren't in school. I have all their grade reports and their homework and stuff, and they're doing excellent time in schools. They were trying every which way to alienate me from the kids, my wife and I. And it's really causing a lot of problems. In fact, my wife and I are not the same. It's really sad. I believe there's something called a family, and I thought raising the kids and what I was accused, I want to tell you in a second, that stuck enough for them to get out of there, is that my parents, this is the tricky part. In my life, my parents were old and they were dying, and they wanted to liquidate their home and get their belongings. So they asked me to step in and help them. Of course, when I lost my job, I had turned the family into a Spartan lifestyle, meaning that I didn't buy any sodas or chips or cookies. I had to, go bare bones because I had a hefty mortgage to pay because of my predatory loan. It was really bad. And it's really, really sad. It's hard to swallow, losing your home. It really is. But I was still fighting it by saving, still looking for work. And then my parents said they need their belongings and want to liquidate their home. And so I said, I'll take care of my belongings. I know their family member that helped me, no one that lived. So I did it because I love my mom and dad. And I wanted to, give the things to family members. Well, that was a mistake on my part because once they're in my home, it gave the home of a clutter effect. Even though the boxes were stacked 3 high, furniture was stacked, it still gave a clutter effect. And what social services said is that they could endanger the kids. So they said I was neglect because the boxes supposedly could fly up the stairs and attack them in their bedroom, or the furniture could walk up the stairs. They're old enough. They were 9 and 12 and 15 at the time, so they were taller than the boxes and so forth. But they thought it was so extreme that when they tricked me and they got a hold of the police department tricked me and forced me to come to my home. And out front was 3 social workers, 2 uniformed policemen, 5 firemen, and 2 code enforcement and a police detective, all insisting they had to come to my home. If I knew the law then, I would not allow it in my home. I would have called an attorney. And I wish I'd known Vincent Davis in the beginning. But instead, I allowed them in my home, and that's where they come in there. They're checking to see if the smoke alarm's installed right, if the back door has a lock and safety that kids can't enter the pool, and the gate outside around the pool is locked. Those kinds of things. They're looking for things. So all they found was, the yard needed trimming. It was a little bushy. I didn't have money for paying my landscaper anymore. And then the gate was loose and need tighten up with some nuts and bolts. And then they found the neglect. And that's where they banked my whole thing on. It was so atrociously awful. It was so atrociously awful. It really wasn't a good thing. So, with that being said, is they took my kids and put them in shelter that night, and their idea of protection was to put them in a shelter next to a prison where hardened criminals are, across from the dependency court that was overcrowded, dirty, and the food was awful. And on top of that, their play area was infested with bees with a beehive. That was their idea of protection. I'm telling you, social services, the CPS workers are bad. They're not your friend. They are not transparent. They're deceitful in their tactics. They lie. They make up stories. And all they want to do is keep your children in custody so every month they can receive that big, huge check of money. And I met with the top dog in CPS. I met with a lot of the managers and so forth. I went to the Taj Mahal of a building. It's in Southern California, but the building looked very futuristic. It had very state-of-the-art artwork, and it looked really, really expensive. You see where all the money goes. It isn't going to the kids. It isn't helping out the parents. They could have offered, to pay for some storage units to put my furniture in there. They could have offered a lot of things. They weren't there to help out parents. They weren't doing what they're supposed to do. They have a handbook. It's called the dog book. I don't know why they call it a dog book. But the handbook has a lot of things they're supposed to do and they don't do. They violated their own handbook on things. Also, you'll find out that social services are not educated and, are very young, very inexperienced, and strictly working on bonuses. Our social worker all the time was bragging about her Gucci purse, her eyelashes, her makeup, her car. She was always about that. She wasn't never concerned about us. And so, we had a meeting where you dispose of your children, meaning that you have a place that you want your children to stay at. They're supposed to offer that to you. Also, if you're married an Indian, they're supposed to offer the ICWA Act of 1979. What that is, the Indian Child Welfare Act that says social workers, if they find Indian blood children, parents and have Indian blood in them, they're supposed to contact the Indian tribes and make an attempt to see if they're registered or could be registered. And if they are, then what they do is the tribe takes care of the kids and they'll help get the kids back to you. They won't spend, they're not in there for money. The tribes will take care of their own. So there's that. Also, it's recommended that you always do family members with them if they are really good and on your side. It's very important to find them, family members. So, again, I'm looking for anybody to call in at 626 898 0990. Excuse me, 698 0990. And if you'd like to speak on the show, I'd love to have you there. So you don't have to listen to me repeat my story or say things new. I do try to talk about other CPS matters and about the importance of how to deal with CPS. I'm not a lawyer. You need a lawyer. There's no question you need a lawyer, and we have the best, Vincent W. Davis, and he's offering a free consultation right now. All you have to do is call in at 888-888-6582. Ask to schedule a free conference with Mr. Davis so he can talk to you about the strategies of fighting CPS and getting your children back. Make sure you mention my name to the office when you call in. And when you see Mr. Davis, also mention my name. It's Bob Pace. And it's important you do so because they won't schedule a meeting and so forth. Um, we have we are a real human. I remember you've been on before. Horrible experience, and I can't afford a lawyer. I know it's a horrible experience. You've told me about your case. I forgot, what city and state are you in? We are only human. What city and state are you in? And again, if you want to talk on the show, I'd love to have you. I'd love to have you there talking on the show. Well, we got one person that teched a comment, which is we are real human, and they say it's a horrible experience. I know it is, and I know how it is to not afford an attorney. And so I'm telling you, if you can't afford an attorney through any kind of means you have, try to work with your public defender and do a lot of research yourself. If that public defender is no good, then replace it with another public defender and another and another and another until you find a public defender that will work for you. It's your constitutional right to be represented by an attorney that wants to fight for you. Bill King. Lawyers are there to let me see what Bill King says. Bill King texts a comment, says lawyers are there to perpetuate the money grab, trying to drain the family of money. No, I don't think they really are, to be honest with you. The public defenders are young, they're starting out, and really, they're not the ones that are really going to fight for you for your case. And another thing, you have to really look hard for an attorney. You need to shop around, find at least 3 attorneys you can talk to. All of them have to have CPS experience in winning cases. All of them have to show that they've brought back children, and all of them really need to be doing it for a long time. Those are questions you need to find out, and references of those attorneys. You need to talk to people that have used those attorneys and see how they work for them. I'm telling you right now that Vincent Davis will not drain you of money. He's very fair in his retainer, and he is worth every penny of it because he's good at what he does. He's the only attorney I know that really will stand up to CPS. There are a couple of them in Orange County that I've worked with, but you need to shop around. But what I would do is right now you got a 1 hour free time with the attorney right now, Mr. Davis. So I'd schedule that meeting, the consultation meeting with that attorney, Vincent Davis, and talk about your case. You got nothing to lose, Bill King. Bill, by the way, what city and state are you from? And what were your allegations? And we are human. What city and state are you? I forgot what it is. I know it was a horrible experience, and I know you can't afford an attorney. I just wish I could wave a wand and make everything get better. But I know this: if you stick and just do yes, no answers and do everything you ask of you, you eventually get your kids back. They're just trying to break you. They're trying to break you and so forth. And you need to look into the laws. You need to know what they can do, what they can't do. And you need to know them. Now, if you have an attorney, you can depend on them. But if you don't, then all you do is spend a lot of hours investigating them. You need to find out where the judge is from. What's his background? You need to know about the attorney that you're representing you. And again, if you don't like the public defender, then you go to the public defender's office at the court and say, I want to switch attorneys. The one I have is not representing me fairly or not doing my wishes there. Okay. That's right. Rochester, New York. Okay. Thank you for telling me. Yeah, CPS does know. They hope, you don't get an attorney. So, Bill King says, uh, read corpus jurisdictions addendum, read uh, their oath. Number one, responsible is to the court. If the case conflicts constitutional rights versus claims, it goes to the latter. You're number 7 on that list. Oh, you're at the bottom. You're at the bottom there, Bill. Um, but if you know the law and know what they can do and stuff like that, and again, don't talk to social workers. And if you do, it's yes, no answers. They have to have a court order to come in your home. They have to have a warrant to take your child or come in your home. They need a court order warrant that specifically names, the name of the person they want to investigate and what they're looking for to come into your home. If they don't have it and they won't show it to you, then they don't have it. A lot of times they try to fill out the form. It's the weekend. They don't have anybody to sign. The judge is not works on the weekends. They'll say, "Oh yeah, we got that warrant." You say, "Oh, let me see it." And you need to see the court, the signature and everything should be a wet signature and so forth. And um, because they're going to use what they see in your house against you. Let's say that you know you have drugs laying around, which you shouldn't be doing anyway. They'll see that and use that against you. Um, you're really not supposed to do drugs until the kids are grown up past 18. And that's one of the bad things that hurts parents. Also, a custody battle. There are a lot of single moms out there and single dads, and they're fighting over spouses or fighting over the children. You don't want to. You don't want to look bad in the kids' eyes. You don't want to do alienation with the kids. But CPS does do alienation. They're going to try to make your kids break away from you. They refuse to let the kids, see on a regular basis. They have monitor visits. They have a whole control of what you can do or see with the kids. So, Bill, what are the allegations? And did they take your children? They can visit kids in school. That's one thing they can do. It's legal to talk to kids in school. You got to make sure you instruct your kids. Do not talk to strangers. And right now, CPS are strangers. Police are strangers. All you have to do is teach your kids. Do not talk to strangers. If it's something like a school, policeman, or a social worker, you just say, you tell them to say this: I cannot talk to you. You're a stranger, and don't say anything because they'll trick kids to say things. They'll make you look bad. Yeah, a smoke detector. They're going to look for things like that because that is called negligence. If your smoke detector isn't functional, they'll write you up on it. That's what they do when they come in the home. See, when they came to my home, they were measuring the smoke detectors. They were checking to see if they work. They were checking to see if the door had a chain and a deadbolt and everything into the swimming pool area. They checked to see if the gate was tightly and the fence was tight around the pool. They are looking for things. So that's why you don't allow them in there. If I knew that, I would never have lost the kids that night. Also, if I got an attorney, he would do your talking. He would tell you what to do. And I trust Mr. Davis. I really do. He will fight for your kids and so forth. And I know you won't have the retainer the hire him, especially if you're calling from Rochester, New York. That is far away because he has a pretty much high retainer there. But if you can somehow get a credit line in your home or get a loan from a family or friends or something that can help you with the money, it'd be well worth it because in the end, you will have your kids back and you won't have the anguish or worry with CPS because they're out there to make a fast buck off your kids. So how they're supposed to do things is they trick you to get in the home and then they, investigate and then they'll make allegations stick. They'll go to the dependency court and have a plan drawn up. And, the court may order you have to sign the safety plan, but you should never sign any documentation or anything because there's small print in there you didn't read and you're going to sign your life away. You never want to sign a contract or anything until you have a chance to look at it. And CPS are going to be tricky. They're going to find things in the past. Let's say you had a drug charge 20 years ago. They'll find it. They'll see you went to prison for it. They'll use that against you, even though you're drug free and you can be test drug free and so forth. That's where you need to prove you're innocent. That's why you need the attorney. It's really, really important for that. You do not want to fight CPS because they have the money to fight you back, and they don't have workers. I mean, the workers don't even have a chance to mentor with a senior social worker going through this. They're thrown right into the fuel pit, and their only concern is how much money is that bonus? I want that bonus. What do I need to do for that bonus? Keep the child in social services hands. Have them adopted it into foster care. Foster care is used wrongly in CPS cases. You see, if you want to adopt a child or want a child, you have a 10 to 15-year process to do it, to adopt them. It takes a lot of money and a lot of time. But in foster care, all foster care people do is fill out a form, a simple orientation to become a foster care parent. And then CPS pays them and, to watch the kids and so forth. And they can adopt the kids a lot quicker, a lot easier than normal adoption. So you got to be leery of foster care. Sure, I know they use the police. They use the police on me. I wasn't scared. I thought the police were somebody you could be honest with. I had no idea, until I've been watching a lot of these cases of Black Lives Matter. There's a lot of wrong things that policemen do. There are good cops and bad cops, and I'm afraid there's probably a lot more bad cops lately and unnecessary. There's so many unnecessary shootings every day. It's really injustice. You're really scared, especially if you're a minority. You're scared because minorities are treated worse than non-minorities, and sometimes a minority can be someone low on money. They could be low on money, and if you're out of money, then they'll take advantage of you on that. They will do all kinds of bad things for you and stuff. So I know about the scare tactics that they try to use with parents. And that's really, really bad. Now, before I forget, I have rule number 2 is that you need to take notes. You need to get a notebook and you need to put down the date and time, the people involved in the incident, and what the incident was and the outcome. You need that there because 2 years from now, you won't remember. So you get this notebook, and every day incident happens, you write it. And if it's 3 or 4 in one day, you have a date, and then you have all these times. You list the social workers or the policemen or what children were involved, and then you list what what was happening. Stealing my children and so forth. Then you have to finish up with the outcome. The outcome may be taking some time. You should refer back to your notebook. But a notebook is really important. Some people record incidents and so forth, and you got to be careful there because each state's different. And I know one person said they could record, but I thought you have to give notice. So other states won't let you record because they will lie. They will lie. I saw it firsthand when I was in my trial on my dependency court, and they were trying to give my daughter to my wife's sister and husband. There was a question that came up about domestic violence, and my attorney had investigated that. And they can't put kids cannot be adopted or put in with parents if they have domestic violence. And so far, the husband and them did, and the social worker knew about it, and she lied. She said, "No, they're really good parents. Your daughter will be fine in there." Oh, I was just so invigorated. The sad part is that the CPS workers brainwash and coach my daughter to be adopted by a stranger in foster care. Why? Well, she was saying, well, dad no longer gets Disneyland passes. Dad no longer can travel. He has no money. Dad no longer gets cookies or chips or sodas. But my foster care will. My foster care will pay for a lot of those things. So she was a Barbie girl in a Barbie world, and she fell for it. But she was so alienated from us. CPS didn't let me see my daughter since they took her. My wife started seeing her daughter, that the visits got less and less to the point where she had to be monitored. And then they hammered her and she could no longer see my daughter. We saw her sons a lot. There's no problem seeing her boys. But our daughter was something different. And so she divorced her parents at age 12. It was sad. It still hurts me in my heart. Where the judge says, "Are you sure you want to divorce your parents? Did you know when you divorce your parents, you divorce your brothers, you divorce your grandparents, you divorce the whole relationship of what you were born with?" And she went ahead with it. She was convinced it was better. And on top of that, she had her birth certificate sealed up so no one could find her birth certificate. And then she changed her name and has assumed a different identity, and calls these people her foster care as mom and dad. It's like it's something, a slap or hurt for whatever revenge she was thinking of getting. I don't know. We still don't know this day why she did what she did, and I still don't talk to her. She's now 21 years old. So I have two groups of families, by the way. I have my first family and my firstborn. She was 3 years at the time when that broke up, and she now is 32, and I've not seen her since she was 3. And through no choice of my own, but my former wife made it difficult. And it wasn't a CPS matter. It was nothing about child neglect or child abuse. So I wasn't involved in that one in there. So it was sad. I didn't want the marriage to end. The marriage was good for 10 years. It wasn't a short marriage. It was good for 10 years. And waited 5 years to have the children. So that was a hard thing for me to swallow. And then my wife has had 2 children, both born out of rape. The first one at 15 when she was at a concert, and her parents didn't even care about her going to concert at 15. And her older sister, who was 18 or older, was too stoned or too drugged out to take care of her, watch her, and she went to the bathroom, got lost, got picked up by a couple of guys, taken to the bushes. Her first introduction to sex was having a child. She became pregnant, and her belief is you don't do abortions, so she gave up the child for adoption. Good side of it, he turned out to be a really good man. At age 20, he looked up his biological mom. I met him, and he's been part of a family since then. He's 42 right now, and he's in the Air Force as an officer, working in the law department, the JAG part, and does quite well. He's married to another lawyer. They have 2 children, and they're doing quite well in life. My firstborn, I know she's a teacher. I know she's married, but I don't know if she has children. And she, I guess, is doing okay, but I don't know. I tried to reach out to her, but I haven't got her. I've seen her on Facebook and things like that, but I can't seem to, I wanted her to look me up. Her birthday's May 2nd coming up, and I don't forget it. I think all the time of her because that's the last time I saw her. Now, my other daughter that my wife had was through rape, and she was dating this guy, and this guy said, "Oh, yeah, I can't get you pregnant." And sure enough, got pregnant, and my wife, again, doesn't believe in abortion. And she decided to keep that child and raise it. She was 28 when I met her. Her child was 5. And both of them came into my life at a really hard time. And we got to know each other 5 years, and her daughter started calling me dad and everything else. So that was a good thing. That was really a good thing. But she's moved out at age 25. She's 36 now. But at 25, she moved out. And about a year after she moved out, that's when my wife's family started to attack us family when they heard that we lost the job. They were so mean. They wanted to take possession of our young daughter. They wanted to take our 2 boys. But our boys were smart enough to know what was happening. And they want nothing to do with that family. They said it's a bad family. It's a shame. Instead of being good grandparents, family members are something bad. I hate the custody scene. I hate divorce, and I hate, being a single parent. That doesn't sound fun. It's really a challenge to hear girls. Today I spoke a girl that's spoken before, and she had her child in prison, didn't know who the dad was, and she was found not guilty. She wasn't in prison. She was in jail, And they set her free, but when she had her baby in the county jail, because she didn't have money for a bail, they took her child away from her, and now she's trying to fight to get her child back. It's really a shame. If people love children and want to raise them, more power to you. You should be, especially if the children are your own. You love your children. Children are a very valuable thing in life. Yeah, I'm sorry. We are really human. You should have asked for a warrant when they took your children. That would have stopped them, and you should have an attorney. Most of the mistakes we made are made without attorneys, and so you don't get a second chance when you make a mistake. That is the hard thing to do um, with CPS cases in there. Now I've talked about ICWA of 1979. I've talked about taking notes. Talk about getting an attorney. Rule number one. Rule number two is the note taking. Rule number three is do not talk to social workers, and and don't talk to the policemen. Don't let them in your home. Now, there's something really important that you guys should all know out there. It's called a petition 388, and it's a petition you need to know about because if you want to change your current plan in dependency court and you have some new information, new discovery, that's what you file a petition 388. It's a form used in the court to change the current plan. And so let's say you completed your drug classes. Let's say you completed some other parenting classes and you've been drug free for a year. What you do, you submit all that evidence on that 388 as attachments, and then you go ahead and you want to change. You want to make changes. You may want to do a different jurisdiction. You used to live in one county, moved to another county. It's too far for you to go back and forth. So you may want to change. Again, you want to use that form. That form is a form used to make changes to your current plan. And it's something that you should be familiar with, and something your attorney should know about it. Now, I understand that it's being used in Maine, so I'm pretty sure every state has or something similar to it. It's when you want to modify your juvenile case plan, It's a petition for modifications in juvenile. Um, to change custody, change visitation orders in your dependency. So there's a lot that the 3.8 is important to know about, and so you don't want to forget that. Um, Someone had talked to me about a professional service agreement. You don't want to sign that. That's a legal binding document, and CPS uses it to trick you to sign something, and then you lost your rights. So if you get a PSA, don't sign it. Talk to your attorney about it. Now, there's another terminology that's used in CPS matter called the CASA. Now, that is a court appointed um, special advocate, and that is to ensure that children and youth that are in foster care have a voice. And supposedly that CASA is going to help you. Be very careful. Parents are giving CASAs, children are giving CASAs. They are ears for CPS, and they will report back to CPS what you say. So don't trust them. And I'm not trying to say it's a bad thing, but I never heard anything positive about a CASA volunteer. They're a court appointed special advocate, and they work primarily with foster youth, advocating for their best interests. But what they are the ears for CPS social workers to say something that is bad there. You don't want to do parent alienation. When parents are going through a custody battle, they don't want to alienate one parent from the other and do your kids. So it's important that you don't. CPS will use alienation. They'll try to alienate your kids from you. For instance, I think they should meet once a week the kids, the parents, the social workers, the lawyers, and once a week they say where we're at. The social worker could say that, this is where you're at in the investigation. The parents would say this is what classes we're taking, and the kids could say this is where we're being housed. It gives reassurance to the kids, and that's nothing that social worker wants to do. They don't want to give reassurance to kids. They want to get the kids thinking badly of their. So what if you do? Try to refrain from alienation. That is something that really is wrong, and you should not do that. You should also look at the family codes in dependency cases. There are a lot of them. And like Code 3160 requires every county family court to have a mediator available for child custody disputes. The purpose of mediation is to reduce um, acrimony and provide parents the options of reaching amicable agreements prior to difficult litigation hearing on visits and parenting time. So that's something that you should look at, that Family Code 3160. Now, that handbook, by the way, you should look at it too. Um, it's also called the Dependency Quick Guide. It's entitled to be used as a reference manual for attorneys representing parents and children. And it's supposed to have what the social workers can do. It talks about hearings. It talks about the fact sheet. Like on the fact sheet, it's going to give you facts that you may want to know about. Child Abuse Central Index, children's rights, the care reform, the child status, the educational law, rights and issues, foster care, court procedures, everything. You should look at that. There's a lot of information that you should look at with that manual by CPS. You also should look at the 14th Amendment because it has a lot of your constitutional rights. I know we hear the 14th Amendment used with Donald Trump, and supposedly he led a resurrection of bad things against the government. And so they're trying to use that thing in there. There's good stuff about social workers and your rights as a parent and so forth. So you should look at the 14th Amendment there and everything on that. We have about 53 minutes. We have about 7 minutes left. I was just wondering if anybody, we've had two people text me, Bill King, we're a human, and they bring up some stuff that is pretty much bad. We're real human said they used the police with me, stole my daughter from the hospital, took my sons from school with no warrant. Yep, schools are just as bad. They're duped. Professionals are duped. I've heard of stories where social workers come in and the mother just had given birth. They haven't cleaned up the blood or the mess or anything, and they grab the child, run down the hall. This is so bad what they can do. Technically, they're not supposed to be in that room there. The hospital says all people got to wait in the lobby. And they got to have some type of court warrant, and that's stupid to file a court warrant there. It should be done, at somebody's place or home or residence, not the hospital where you're giving breath. That is so sad. I mean, I've heard of some of the horrific horror stories of parents losing their kids. I mean, it's single moms. There's a lot of single moms out there. And I know what it is to be poor. I really am, because I'm struggling. When, I found a job and I had a job until they ran out of work, and then I had another job and ran out of work. So I've had misfortune of not working continuously. And right now I am looking for work, but I'm 74 years old, so it's a little harder. It's a little harder. And it's, my youngest now is 18. He was 9. So 9 years later, he's 18 now, and he's going to go off to college next year, which is great. And I'm really happy to say that one of my children is doing it. Our older son, who's 24, was really hit by COVID and the CPS. And in his senior year, in his second semester, senior year, he quit college after 4 years and 4 years of private school. And he's all based to be a robotic engineer working in the space industry. And he take nothing but STEM classes, where you take a science class, a technology class, an engineering class, and a math class. And he did that all 4 years. He did it all, 3.5 years. And then he finally said, I'm done with school. It was no practical. He walked away. It was really sad. It was so sad. And I know a lot had to do with social services. They really ruined our kids. Our kids in the group home were told to put their hands at their sides, not to show any love or affection to the parents. Our young son was scolded because he drank too much orange juice. My other son, who was trying to study at night, was told lights out. Even when he tried to study underneath the pillow, they took away the light. So it's really sad. They interrupted my kids' Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts. They interrupted their soccer. That's all the stuff they had done. They interrupted them. And now they'll never finish their scouting. My son will never make Eagle. He wanted to make Eagle so bad. And my young son wanted to. And, it's really, being involved in CPS is heartbreaking. It hurts. It still hurts me today to know that this agency is out taking children legally, under false pretenses that, this extreme neglect, extreme abuse. They have to be out of the parents' hands. Now, yes, there are cases of extreme neglect and abuse, but they're far and few. Not every case is going to be extreme, and they treat every case like it's the same. They don't differentiate anything, and they don't have the experience. They don't have the, you know, any experience at all. They're setting it there at a young age and given so much freedom and so forth, and they're messing around with people's lives. It is the hardest thing to mess around with people's lives. There's no question about that. So I hope that you all will stay true and fight it to the end and get your kids back. I also hope that you continue to listen to me and come back to the podcast and give me some updates. I love to hear that. Again, remember that first rule, you need an attorney, and we have an attorney, Vincent W. Davis. He's a trial attorney. He has a long years of CPS, fighting CPS and getting children back. He's a family law attorney. And he also has sued CPS on one of his cases. And so he's offering a consultation session with him for 30 minutes up to an hour to help you with strategies of how to fight CPS and how to get your children back. All you have to do is call 888-888-6582. It's a free consultation for 30 minutes to an hour. And you tell them when you call that number that I want to schedule time with Mr. Davis and that Bob Pace sent me. And also when you speak to Mr. Davis, you tell him that Bob Pace sent me. And then you have that consultation, and you may like what he has to say. There may be some financial means you can come up with. And there you go. You got an attorney that will protect your children, protect you, and get it all straightened out there. So that's important to call in, 888-888-6582. Again, don't forget that same number, 888-888-652. You can call in and be on my show. I'd love to have you. I also want to thank my people right now. Let me see here. The people that have called into the show. I want to thank We Were Really Human. She's from New York, and she's called in before. And I'm glad she was there. Also want to thank Bill King calling in. I don't think I found out where you're located, but you're somewhere out there, Bill King. And so thank you for responding. And both of you people there, it's nice to have some interaction in this room. So, with that further said, I'm going to end our session here. Good luck. Stick with your kids. Um, good luck with the new year. Best wishes and much happiness. And don't give up. And God bless you. And good night. I'll see you tomorrow. Bob.